Hello, hey there, Tia Hopper here, Tia Hopper Consulting. So excited to just start a conversation today about something that I am so passionate about. Something that's kind of hard to talk about as the social media person, but I think it's so important to have the conversation. So today on today's live, we're gonna just chat about disconnecting from social media, disconnecting from really technology, your phone. It could be games that you're playing on there. And I recently got back from vacation where I actually did a pretty good job. I wasn't perfect. It's not like I went all week without checking in, but of disconnecting, and it was so powerful. And I think there's so many benefits to it. So as you guys know, I like to do recorded video. Those are usually pretty short and sweet, try to give you some tips. But I like to go live now and then. And really, when I go live, it's more of a conversation, right? So hoping we'll get some people to jump on live to take part in this conversation, hoping we'll have some replay viewers to just share, like, what are the benefits if you do regularly or somewhat unplug or disconnect, and what are some tips so that we can do that better, right? So I know it's a little ironic, this message, like I said, coming from the person who does social media, who coaches social media, trains social media, runs a business around social media. And so I've kind of in the past stayed clear of topics like these, but I think that they're so powerful. And if you know me at all, you know that I'm a huge advocate for using social media, but using it in a really smart way. So you're using it to improve your life, to run your business, to make your business better and stronger, but you're not using it to run your life, right? And I think that it's becoming harder and harder, and we're seeing more and more people just hooked to their phones, whether it's, like I said, social media, email, whatever it is. And I'm actually, if maybe not a lot of you know this, but I'm actually a total hippie at heart. So like my favorite times have been when I've been able to truly disconnect. I love hiking, love the mountains, love camping. Some of my favorite trips have been going to countries where their Wi-Fi was awful and there just really wasn't an option. It makes it really easy to disconnect and unplug. So while I love social media and I'm a huge advocate for it, and I think it's very powerful, I also think that we have to unplug from it from time to time, and there's so many benefits of doing that. So like I said, I'm on a little bit of a soapbox. Went on vacation recently with my family, and you may or may not know that my immediate family, my husband and my daughter and I, we've been traveling around the country for the last year. But of all those trips we've taken, probably in the last 2 years, I haven't unplugged, I haven't disconnected. I've continued to work during those trips because it's really easy to do. I run an online business. So it's really easy to continue to work from the car, during naps, and not miss a beat, and continue, for my business to continue to thrive. So I think it's even harder for those of us, if anyone's watching that runs a business, let me know, like drop a hands up. I think it's even harder for us to disconnect when you run an online business, right? It's a little bit easier when your work isn't on your phone and your work isn't dependent on you being on there. So, hey everybody jumping on live. By the way, I can see that there's people here. Haven't been able to see who's joined yet. So say hello, let me know you're here. I'm gonna check things out over on my computer and see if I can see who's watching live, but let me know you're here. And of course, if you're catching the replay, we'd love to know you're here. I think this is a powerful topic, something I'm so passionate about, but like I said, I've kind of stayed away from in the past. And as I've actually been redoing my own branding in the last few months, I'm like, you know what? This is something I need to lean into, because I think there's a lot of people looking for this information of, yes, you can use social media, but you don't have to be on it all the time. Confession, I do not eat, sleep, and breathe social media. I'm not on my phone all the time. I'm very conscious to disconnect. at certain parts of the day and on the weekends. And like I said, just took a trip where I did probably the best job I've done in a while. So I just wanted to kind of share what that was like for me, and then would love to get tips from all of you of how you manage this on a day-to-day basis. So just went to Myrtle Beach with my family. This was like my whole family, my parents, my siblings and their kids. And so when it's just my husband and my daughter and I, it's pretty easy to like work through naps. I was like, you know what? I really want to be present. I really want to spend time with them while we're on this trip and not be sneaking off to work all the time. Hey Megan, good to see you. Hope you're having a great day. Would love to hear, I know you run an online business, would love to hear how you balance running your business online and disconnecting. I was saying earlier, like I really need to disconnect. I know people who don't need to, and I think that's awesome. Hey Stephanie, welcome. Would love to hear from you if you regularly or ever schedule time to unplug. Is that a priority to you? Let me know as you guys are jumping on live. But I am one of those people that I need to unplug from time to time. Again, there's people that don't, good for you, but if you need to, this video is for you. So we were in Myrtle Beach and I told my husband like a couple weeks before we went, like, I'm really going to focus on unplugging and disconnecting on this trip. And he was like, good, I think you need to. So I was really intentional this time, and I was really mindful of not being on my phone. So I'm going to share some tips of how I did that. I would love to hear from any of you that try to practice this as well. Tips on how you've been able to successfully do that, because it is challenging. It is hard. But what are the benefits? Okay, so if you are on your phone a lot, whether it's just for personal reasons, you're just scrolling, or you run a business on your, you run an online business, or you're constantly feel like you're on your phone to keep up with work stuff, what are the benefits? Like, why do we need to have time where we unplug or we disconnect, or even, as you may have heard it, detox? That's a little strong for me, because I think that means that social media is toxic, which I don't want to go there yet, but but however you want to call it, right? So there's so many benefits and reasons why you should do it. And I'm just going to list a few that came to my head. You could probably find 100 more online, and it's probably different for you based on your personality. But for me, the reasons why I try to do it is just more of a clear mind and focus. So I'll even sometimes during the day when I'm working, like try to, put my phone away or turn it off, and I'll tell you how I do that later, so that I can focus in on the project that I'm working on or the work that I'm doing, and I'm not constantly distracted by emails and notifications. So definitely a clearer mind and more focus. I see we've got more people jumping on. Say hello if you're here. We'd love to hear from you. Let me know as you're jumping on, or if you're catching the replay. Do you ever, or do you regularly schedule times to unplug or disconnect from social media? Is this something that you struggle with or take a proactive approach to? I think it's becoming increasingly important. So wanting to start the conversation today in this live video. So what are the benefits of doing this? Why should we be doing this? Yes, clearer mind and focus. Also more creativity. If you feel like you're struggling with creativity, the times that I do, even if it's like leaving my phone at home and going for a walk, the ideas that I get percolating because I've just disconnected for 30 minutes or an hour are crazy. So lots of benefits, right? Stephanie says, I don't, but I'm trying to. Okay, stay tuned, Stephanie. I'm going to give you some tips, tried and true, that have worked for me, both from a like unplugging for a week and then also just on a daily basis. Being more present. I think being off of our phone, it's almost kind of ironic, right? It's like we disconnect to connect, but once we disconnect, we are so much more present. And I find myself struggling with this daily, but when I can, even if it's for an hour in the evening with my daughter, I'm so much more present when I'm not checking my phone. And she notices, she's 2, but she totally notices when I'm checking my phone and when I'm like only half listening. And nobody wants to be that parent, right? I get so upset at myself because it's almost like a gramophone without even realizing it. Yes, absolutely. And that was one of the biggest aha moments I had about a week and a half ago. I started to say last week, but about a week and a half ago, when I unplugged, was how often I would just reach for it for no reason at all. And I'm going to talk about here in a little bit triggers. And I think that was for me like an absolute trigger of like, why am I reaching for it? Usually it was just out of boredom. Like my mind just started to kind of get quiet. And so I automatically reached for my phone, not for anything. So that's kind of been one of the things I've been trying to work on, is if I'm going to look something up, to check email for a purpose, to send a message, absolutely, I'll let myself. But if I reach for that phone and I think, stop and catch myself of like, why am I getting on there? And I don't have a reason, then I just put it back. So I'm going to talk more about triggers in a little bit, but I would leave my phone in the next room at night when I get back from vacation and read. Yes. And read books. Yes. I'm going to look at the rest of your comment. It's got cut off over here. That is a great tip. I love that. Those are some of the tips I have too, that when we get into tips, I was going to mention. I love that, Tawny. You have to have a plan. You have to have a plan to make this happen, or you'll just get sucked right back in, right? So what are a few other benefits before we get into more of the tips? Being more present, I mentioned. Less anxious. This could be a whole nother live video, a whole nother topic. But I really think we live in a world that's becoming increasingly anxious. I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but I think one of them, and there's, you know, science and research to back it up, is because of we're constantly in front of our phones, right? And it just creates this anxiousness, this anxiety. And so that's another trigger, right? If you start to kind of feel that and you reach for your phone because of that, find another way to kind of deal with that. I have found, since I started kind of unplugging in the evening, I sleep better with my phone like out of the room. I sleep so much better, more productive. I think, like I said earlier, whether it's just turning off notifications, turning off your phone for an hour or two during the day, you can get so much more work done. So that's one of the benefits. And then again, a whole nother topic, but avoiding burnout. I read a book recently, The Power of, the Magic of a Tiny Business. And it talked about burnout, and it talked about how it's so much better to take a few days off or a week off than to like quit altogether, right? Like sometimes we're just like, I don't have a week that I can, my dog's gonna start barking at the mailman, by the way, FYI. Koala, it's okay. And so we think like, I don't have a week. I can't take a week off of work. I can't take a week off of, you know, email, business, whatever. But isn't that better than to like end up quitting because you're so burnt out, because you never took the time to unplug or disconnect? So, Tawny says, I compare myself way too much to others on social media, our businesses, other lives. It creates so much self-hate. I know. I think that's another really important point is, I actually did a post about that recently, about just like, that's, you know, one of the negatives of social media is comparing yourself to others. I think when that might be a trigger, right? When you find yourself comparing, getting off of social media, disconnecting, and then like connecting in real life. So, I'll share a little bit personal on that. When we were living in San Diego, I didn't have a lot of connections, right? I was outside of my community. And so I found myself kind of not even so much comparing, but just like not having realistic thoughts and ideas. And now that I'm back home and I'm like around my people and I'm more connected, I just feel like my mental clutter and my mindset's so much better. So I think there's so much truth there. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's probably a trigger. So those are just some of the benefits and why I think this is so important to talk about. Again, love social media. I think it's the most powerful tool today to grow your business, to run your business. I'm online all the time, all day long. But I also, I believe in using social media smart, and I believe in using it with boundaries so that it's not running us, right? And we're running it. So last week, again, I'll share kind of a little bit of both tips on how to disconnect for like a week. If you're like, I'm doing it, I'm going to unplug for a week, or just on the day-to-day. And so these are some of the tips, things I have found. Again, this is from like the last 2 to 3 years of me having a child and running a business and just trying to be present, but also have a successful business. So Honey says, I'm in Yosemite. First day I looked at Facebook in a while, so thanks. Oh, good. I'm glad you were able to catch this. And I hope that while you're there, this will be helpful for you to unplug and enjoy your time there. So, okay, so here are some tips that worked for me. Again, if you're watching live, let me know what's worked for you. If this is new to you, let us know that too. And we'll just kind of share. This is less of me of like telling you this is how this works and more of me just trying to start the conversation, right? So what's worked for me? First, you have to prepare ahead of time and plan, especially if you're not just doing this for personal reasons. If you're doing this with your business, you have to prepare ahead of time. So what did that look like for me? I said, okay, I know I want to try to unplug for the week and not be on my phone or computer all the time. So what does that look like? So that was me planning out and then scheduling my post ahead of time, because I didn't just want to let my business go for a week, right? And I have clients too that need to ensure that their social media is going to be taken care of. So for me, that looked like planning ahead. And so that meant that the week before we left, I had some late nights, some long days of getting everything ready. But I will tell you, it was so worth it. It was so worth it to put in that time ahead of time to be able to unplug while I was on vacation with my family. So first thing you have to do is kind of prepare ahead of time, and especially if you have a business, right? And plan things out in advance. Secondly, is you have to set your own boundaries and your own rules. Like, what does this look like for you? So for me, on a daily basis, what this looks like is not checking my phone first thing in the morning. Like I said, my phone is out of the bedroom. And so I'm not waking up and immediately looking at my phone and being overwhelmed by notifications and emails and texts. I wait until I'm ready to plug back in, and that has been so helpful. Same thing at night before I go to bed. I have some time where I unplug, so I'm not going to bed, scrolling through my phone, and that's helped me sleep better, and it's just helped reduce overall, I think, anxiousness. Hey, Carrie. I'm sure you have some great things to add to this topic. I know you're very mindful, so would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. So, and then in the evenings too, like when we're eating dinner, and from the time we're eating dinner until my daughter goes to bed, I try to like not be on my phone. And sometimes that requires me like physically hiding it, so it's just not even in my sight, okay? So those are kind of some of my like boundaries or rules day to day. And I think you have to look at your day and schedule time where you are unplugged. On vacation, I decided that it wasn't really realistic, and sometimes it's just not even worth it the week after vacation to completely unplug and like not look at things for a week. So I decided I was going to let myself check email and notifications once a day from my computer, because I knew if I let myself do that from my phone, it was just going to be a habit that it was going to be hard to break. So I tried to keep my phone kind of, again, as Tawny said earlier, like out of the room. And once a day when my daughter would nap, I would get out my computer, I would check everything, I would take care of what I needed to, and then I would put it away for the rest of the day. And you guys want to know something crazy? Like, everything was fine. The world didn't end. All my clients were taken care of. Everything was great and smooth. And so for me, that's been a reminder of like, I don't need to check email 20 times a day. I could probably check it 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night, and then be working on other things. You know, how many times are we just checking it to be checking it? Like, it's mental clutter that we don't need. Carrie says, love this advice. You don't realize what a difference it makes until you try it. You don't. I completely agree. I don't think you realize maybe the angst or just other things that could be caused by it until, or the how clear your mind can be until you do this. I absolutely agree. That's really good advice, Carrie. So second thing is setting boundaries and rules. And so whether that's, if you're going to unplug for a week or a day, or just try to start to have some daily boundaries, is writing those out and getting clear on them. And then my third tip for you is to have an accountability partner. So I have on the day-to-day accountability partner that we kind of keep each other accountable on this. But for our trip, I told my husband, we were driving to South Carolina, I said, here's my plan. I'm telling you this because I want you to call me out. So if you see me on my phone, like, I'm not going to get mad at you. Please call me out and ask me, like, you know, what are you doing? And so even just telling him that, I don't know that he ever even needed to call me out, but even me telling him that helped me hold myself accountable to know that, like, he knows the rules I've set and someone's going to be watching me, right? So have someone that can kind of be your accountability partner. The next thing I have learned, and again, by the way, if you're watching, Carrie would love to hear from you, Lynn, anyone else that's on, or if you're catching the replay, like, what has worked for you? Because I think it's different for everybody, right? Depending on who you are, how you're using social media, your personalities. Would love to hear your tips on how you have been able to do this yourself. Or if you're brand new to this and you just are like, yeah, I need this, let me know. Would love to hear from you as well and just kind of know where you are. So some other things you could do. Oh, wait, let me come back to that. So the next step, I think, talked about this a little bit earlier, is to know your triggers. So what is it that triggers you to get on your phone? Or what is it that triggers you to get out your computer, or whatever it is? Know your triggers. And if you don't know them, once you go through this, you'll realize what they are. And so for me, one thing I know is that, like, and I think Tani was talking about this earlier, if my husband gets his phone out and just starts playing a game or mindlessly scrolling, I'm so tempted to do the same, just out of habit, right? And so what I tried to do, because I didn't want him to necessarily have to unplug, that was his choice, was I would I knew what I was gonna do when I felt that trigger, right? I had a plan. So for me, it was grabbing a book, which I think Tani said earlier as well. So I would always have my book around. So if he got on his phone and I felt that need to, like, grab my phone and scroll, I would grab my book instead and I would read. So know what is going to trigger you to kind of to break your rules, and then have a plan or a replacement for your phone. That worked really, really well for me. So the other things you could do, and then I'm going to get to, like, the thing that has really worked best for me, and I'll end with that, is to remove or remove or even just move your apps. So, you know, if it's your Facebook app, again, the business that I run, I'm not going to remove those apps. But what I have done for other times that I've tried to disconnect is just, like, move them so they're not on my home screen. So I at least have to go looking for them, so they're not quite so visible. So they're on my second or my third screen. But you could remove them altogether, especially if you're doing this for personal reasons, you know, even if it's for the week or the time period that you're trying to disconnect. Again, I didn't do this, but I think it took a lot of discipline. So if you don't feel like you have that discipline, that could be a tip for you. And then you could also consider turning off notifications. I know a lot of people that have done this or do this, whether it's all together or for short periods of time. Again, running a business and using my phone for business, I didn't want to do this because I liked having those notifications so I could just see what was happening, and I didn't feel like I had to constantly be wondering and felt the need to log in. So I relied on those notifications to be like, no, everything's fine. Like, this could all wait until I, you know, have my hour to go check in. But that is an option for you, to, like, actually turn off notifications temporarily. But this is what has really worked for me. And it's funny, this is mostly just my own thoughts, but I spent just a few minutes, like, looking at what other people were saying, and I found an article on just this topic, which I thought was so interesting. But it's using airplane mode, okay? Does anyone else use airplane mode? Let me know in the comments if you use airplane mode to unplug or to disconnect. I don't know how long I've been doing this, probably 2 or 3 years. It's well, I can tell you actually, yeah, almost 3 years, because it was when I had my daughter. And a friend shared this with me, and she actually did it for different reasons than just unplugging or disconnecting. But I started doing it, and I'm just, yeah, Tani, it is such a game changer. And here's why. Because what I love about it is you're not actually turning your phone off and turning your phone back on. You're just simply turning it on airplane mode. And so you can turn it on and off easily. And what I love is when I turn it back on, all my notifications pop up, because I rely, like I said, on those notifications to keep up with stuff. So if I, turn my phone off and then I miss those notifications, I feel like I'm missing out a lot. So when I turn it back on, if there's all those notifications waiting for me, I can quickly see what I missed and take care of what I need to take care of. So I do this every night when I'm ready to kind of unplug, usually around 8 p.m. I put my phone on airplane mode, sometimes a little bit later. And then in the morning, like I said, I don't keep my phone in my room anymore, but when I'm ready to plug back in, then I turn airplane mode off and I'm ready to like jump back into my digital world, right? And I'm available. So I do that every night. But then sometimes even when I'm working, like I said earlier, if I like have a project I really want to focus in on and I don't want to be distracted, I'll put my phone on airplane mode, even for like an hour or something. So, it's just worked really, really well for me. And there's so many other benefits to it that I won't get into. But if this is all new to you, I'd highly suggest that's like a really easy way to just kind of start unplugging for little snippets of time. So develop your boundaries and your rules and know what, kind of on a daily basis when you want to unplug or disconnect, and then use airplane mode to do it. And I would love to know, does anyone else do this? Does anyone else use airplane mode? I've shared this with some other people for more of just that, health benefits of disconnecting, and gotten some really good feedback. So let me know if anyone else does this, or if you try it. We'd love to hear from you. Tawny, definitely let me know if you try it and how that worked for you. So like I said, I know this is a little bit of probably like a weird message coming from the person who is social media, right? That's what I do. But I really want to advocate for using social media smart. And I think that you can absolutely use social media in a really powerful way, but it not run your life, and you're not on there all the time. And that's really the message behind everything that I do, is simplifying it, right? So you're doing it with less time, and with this specific approach, you're doing it in a way so that we can be more present and not be on our phones all the time. So we're disconnecting from social, email, whatever it is, so that we can connect more and be more present in life. And I think there's so many other benefits to it. So those are my tips. I just fired up after vacation and really having that week to disconnect. And as somebody said earlier, it's so powerful that actually normally after I unplug, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to jump back in. I'm kind of like over it and I'm ready to jump back in. I actually had a hard time this time, not so much from the business side of things, getting back into it, but more from the personal side of it, of just posting daily and posting to my stories. And I've kind of had to like drag myself back into that, which I don't know that that's a bad thing, but it is interesting, the benefits and just the results you'll see from unplugging. So I hope this has been empowering and helpful. If anyone feels this way, whether, like I said, it's summer, with I just feel like with summer and vacations, it's a really good time to disconnect. I usually try to do this in the summer and then again around the holidays. So I think it's a very timely message, but I hope that whether you are feeling like, yes, I'm going to disconnect on vacation and I'm going to hold myself accountable, or you know what, I just feel like I'm on my phone all day long and I need to find some ways to, on a daily basis, to just kind of start to unplug. I hope these tips were helpful, and I would love to hear from you all what's worked for you and what benefits you've seen. So let me know if this is something you struggled with, what's working for you. If this is something that's new to you, I hope this has been encouraging and motivating. If you're catching the replay, let me know you're here. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for everybody that tuned in live. This was really fun, and I'll be seeing you guys soon. Have a good rest of the day.